need for change is at the heart of your ability to make it happen. Welcome to Turning Inward. I'm Vivian Carrasco, your midwife, teacher, and host for this podcast. Together, you and I are going to navigate the interior life. And we're going to do that by unearthing our personal truths, our own insight, and our inner knowing. These are weekly teachings that are brought to you by hard-nosed scientific evidence focused on spiritual direction with integrity and self-awareness. In 2 words, this is your inner work. Welcome back to the Turning Inward podcast. I hope we already know each other. If we don't, then it's nice to meet you. I'm sitting outside in my backyard. If you follow me on Instagram or on YouTube, then you know exactly what my backyard looks like. It is August in Texas, and it's finally feeling beautiful here before 8 o'clock in the evening. So I'm really excited about that. I enjoy the sunshine. I do not mind being in the desert. So today, I just wanted to give you some context for that in case you hear chirping or water running or leaves in the leaves kind of blow in the tree, but they don't make a lot of noise. So I'm in nature. Nature's cool. It'd be cool if you were actually in nature too. So let me focus. I'm here to go over a story that I heard recently. So Love Being Human's anniversary is coming up in October, and she is turning 5 years old. So in 5 years, I've gone through a complete transformation from being scared shitless, not understanding what exactly was being asked of me and how I was going to deliver that to the world. And if we were to use the metaphor of like a baby being born, I'm sort of still in the newborn stage. So I haven't even gotten to walking yet. I feel driven by a purpose beyond myself. I don't know how long I'll teach Love Being Human, but I can't imagine it not taking decades to unravel, which is kind of cool and interesting and fun, because who doesn't want to be driven by purpose and meaning and seeing how it positively impacts the world? And it all came from suffering. So just that, it's everyone's journey on this earth. We each have, if you're here, you're born, you're on earth, you have a purpose. I don't know if this is my ultimate purpose. You know how Oprah says that she wants to find her ultimate purpose? I don't know that this is mine, but it feels pretty damn good to be of service to the world and make a positive dent in it. So my intention today is to share a teaching with you from Nietzsche. One of the things that I did in the first few years, probably the first 18 months of learning or being given Love Being Human as an inspiration, was kind of trying to figure out what it was. And the way that I did that is I went to past traditions, thousands of years across different cultures, across different religions, to see what this was and how I could make sense of it and translate it into something that I teach, that I offer, that is really born from my own experience, but is a timeless truth, because it's a consistent sort of pattern that happens to us as human beings. One of my favorites so far is this parable from Nietzsche, and he wrote it in a book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. So it's obviously been translated into English, and it's called the Three Transformations of the Spirit. And this layers so beautifully over Love Being Human. It's just beautiful. So here it is. So the 3 transformations of the Spirit. The first transformation is the camel. The camel is when you're in childhood, when you're in youth. It's your season of obedience, okay? It's where you receive instruction and information from your society, from your parents, from university, from television. Because we are humans, it's monkey see, monkey do. What we see other people doing, we do, because we feel like even if you know that it's not the right thing, it's what you will do because of the way that your brain and your body are designed to behave over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So this is the stage of our spiritual journey, spiritual life, where we learn what we should do. This is where we take on all these burdens, You're the camel, you just put burdens on it, burdens. You follow instruction, you carry the load. But at some point, this is happening, I see now for people younger and younger and younger, but generally this happened kind of in midlife, mid-30s, mid-40s, mid-50s, mid-60s, but I'm seeing this decision being made for youth and for 20-somethings, which is exciting because who wants to go through, your youth is your youth. I mean, there's no really age to it, even though we don't really stop developing until we're 23, I think, brain-wise. And we continue to build our brain throughout our whole life. But youth means different things is what I'm trying to say. So I've seen 20-year-olds say this is what I've been taught to do and it's not what I'm going to do. We're all forging our own path. You're listening to Turning Inward because you're actually turning away from that camel. So maybe you've transitioned into that next transformation where the camel actually runs out into the desert. And as it runs out into the desert, it transforms itself into a lion. That's where my people are. You've looked at your shoulds, you've realized that they're not for you, and you're in a transformation. And as a lion, in the parable or the story of Nietzsche, the lion's task is to kill a dragon. And the name of that dragon is Thou Shalt. So here's the shoulds. You learn the shoulds, and then you kill the shoulds. And again, these are shoulds from yesterday, from thousands of years, from our design, from the television, from our parents, from whatever. When the lion comes into their own realization, and this is the most exciting part, this is sort of hopefully where I feel like I'm on the inside edge of transitioning into that third transformation of the spirit, where I've killed all the shoulds. The dragon is down, the dragon is dead. Every scale of that should has been looked at, questioned, and I've decided to go my own way. That is when we are transformed into the child. The camel, the lion, and then the child. So this is a quote taken directly from the story. Innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a sport, a self-propelling wheel, a sacred yes. This is the child. And it's interesting because if you look at that language, and obviously language is just a finger pointing at the moon, it's language that you hear in other traditions and other stories, in the wheel of awareness from the most recent interpersonal whatever it is from Dan Siegel. That's a plane going overhead. The sacred yes, the holy. We begin again, the resurrection. There's a death to the old, right? The dragon is dead. The shoulds are dead. And you are reborn again as a child. So this is where you become. This is kind of often when people ask me for steps or blueprints or stages, I don't have any. I just have a process that you move through. You move through love, being human, human being love, and you integrate and you move through it again. And that is life. It is this constant revisiting and expanding and revisiting and expanding. But the three transformations of the spirit from Nietzsche really give us a good insight into how do we change? What is that next circle? What is that next level? You might be identifying yourself with the camel, still taking on the burden, still sort of feeling uneasy about not feeling great about what everyone told you to want. That's really what kind of brought me to my knees as I went through my own dark period. It was I have what people said I needed to be happy, and I'm not. What did I do wrong? And then as I started to move into my own knowing, my own wanting, kind of knocking those shoulds, those scales of the shoulds off the dragon one at a time, then there was this uneasiness. What is this? What am I doing? Is this right? Is this good? That sort of thing. And if you're asking yourself those same questions, then guess what? You're human, and you're on a journey, and you're evolving, and you're becoming, and that is beautiful. So cheers to your bravery. Cheers to your courage. I'm just honored that we've connected and I'm in your ear as you travel. Because what I say to my community and to my people is that we journey together. We figure it out together. So this last transformation, this transformation of the child, this is where you use the rules. We're in society, right? We're in a structure. There has to be a certain level of fitting in, but you're not being used by the rules. So one of the things that my parents worked really hard at is stripping me of my culture. So not growing up learning Spanish, even though I'm a Latina, Mexicana, Chicana, whatever, West Texas, growing up in Pecos, I didn't know Spanish. I remember my grandmother communicating with us the best way that she could, but being angry at my father. In their minds, that assimilation with the culture was what needed to happen in order for us to succeed and be successful. And I don't fault them for it, My experience is my experience. But now I've thrown that off. I've said, okay, I see you, and I still want to do this, and I still want to do that. That's why if you are following me on Patreon or you support my work on Patreon, what you're supporting is really this exploration of divinity and holiness in not just wisdom traditions, but also in the traditions of my ancestors, my grandmothers. One of my latest creations was a milagro, which is a miracle or a surprise that people use for healing. And it has been just, I don't know, what I want to say is, I don't have the language for it. It's just been so wonderful to create these things for certain people with specific intentions and specific prayers, hoping for healing, this physical gift of love. It's been really weird to do that, right? To be supported. But also, I believe that's just part of the experience that I need to have, is to allow that support. So giving that physical gift has been an interesting experience. In the show notes, you'll be able to link to my Patreon, or you can Google, because Google is wonderful, right? Google my name and Patreon, and then you'll be able to see the creations that I have, or maybe even just visit the store and you can just buy what you like. So this is where you use the rules. You're not being used by the rules. And I have the most delicious experience to kind of tell you how I saw this in real life. So my oldest son was in town, and Joshua and I went to see the work of an artist called Tokashi Murakami. It's the installation of The Octopus Eats Its Own Leg. And it shows his work over 3 decades of his career. I saw in physical form the 3 transformations of spirit. So Tokashi, I believe, has a PhD in the type of art that he creates, that he expresses through. It's rooted in traditional Japanese painting, but it's including folklore, and in his most recent work, uniquely Tokashi. Uniquely him. That's what we're all striving for in our work, in our creative expression, in our service, is the unique work of Vivian, the unique work of Sarah, the unique work of Paula, the unique work of David, the unique work of you. I saw that in physical form as I saw this art installation. So the first few walls were just this beautiful, definitely talented work. Looked very traditional, very Japanese. And these were the first decade, as he was still going through his doctorate. And then it started to bloom into an integration of that traditional piece and something else. And then, I don't know at what point, it just became Tokashi. Like the smiles, the beautiful flowers, and the colors, and the way that the art is made became his unique work. He became the child. He started to move out of his own nature. No rules to obey, right? He had respects the rules. He follows the tradition. He's rooted in that work. But he's in pure impulse to living, to life, to blooming, to becoming. I felt like it was so beautiful. So if you have an opportunity, our installation still happens to be here at the Fort Worth Museum of Modern Art, I believe, through the end of September. So if you're listening to this in real time, you'll have a chance to see it if you haven't seen it. Or you can, obviously, again, the Googler. Google The Octopus Eats Its Own Leg, and it might show you like the span of his career. And you can see how he moves from the camel, following the rules, doing things the way that his teachers had done them, and then moving into the lion, knocking off those shoulds. I believe he is currently in his unique work. So I wrote something down that I thought I wanted to share with you. So I don't know if I wrote this or if I got this from somebody, so if I quoted somebody, I'm so sorry. Please tell me and I'll update somehow this to make it right. So we study an art, we go to work, we learn the rules, we study the techniques, and the rules are put on you by a teacher. But then there comes a time when you use the rules, you're not being used by them. All right, so this might have been me, I'm not sure. Where your deep sense of being inform where your body and soul want to go is the child. So the invitation is to not let anyone throw you off from where your deep sense of being, your body and your soul want you to go. Stay with it. This is tough work. This is the scary work. And if something feels so scary, like love being human was so scary for me in the beginning. And the way that I coped with it is I learned about different traditions. I learned about different religions. I learned about what is this process that I'm talking about? What is it that's been gifted to me to share? How am I supposed to serve? And knowing that these transformations, this integration of the shoulds, inquiry of the shoulds, and then a decision to move through your own impulse. And it is the three transformations of the spirit that Nietzsche talks about in his story. So if you're interested, look for Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where he describes the three transformations of the spirit if you want to learn more about this parable. And in closing, what I want to acknowledge is that my hunch is that you are either the camel who's made the decision to throw off the shoulds, you've run out into the desert, you've become the lion. Maybe you're not fighting the dragon yet, or maybe you're fighting the dragon in little spots. But I don't know, I just want to say I think that's where you are, because that's where I am too. And where we will get to, but life is a dance. You never end up there and stay there, like nothing is static. We will get to where we throw off the rules, we're moving from our own center, we are self-propelled, but then we'll draw back. So it's that Texas two-step that I've talked about before. If you've listened to all the episodes, we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. We forget, and then we have to remember. So wherever you are, just see it as a process, as a continual opening, a blooming, a becoming, a moving towards that child. And I used to have an issue with when people talked about being like a child, because I don't want to be like a child. I don't want to be naive. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want to be weak and vulnerable. But this story showed me a different way to see that childlike space, that perspective. It is innocence, a new beginning, a self-propelled wheel, a sacred yes. It is using the rules, not being used by them. And I like that. And I feel like I'm doing that. Sometimes I forget. It's honestly why there are stops and starts to the podcast, because I forget that it's not me. It is what's moving through me. It is the message that I'm delivering to you. It's not me. But when I get stuck in it being me, I get stuck. And if you're doing anything brave, if you're doing anything creative, my hunch is that you've been there too. I know what that feels like. And go outside, sit in nature, take a walk, take a breath, drink some water, take a nap. We all need more rest, and we're really frenzied. So we're going to get back at it, If there's a dry spell, if there's a stop and a start, look at me, I'm back. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to have this time in your ear where I can share these stories with you, where I can share my experiences with you. I saw it happen in Tokashi's work, and I'm seeing it happen in my life over and over again, and I'm seeing it happen in my clients and my students' lives. And I just want to honor you. If you are on that same transformation of the spirit, and God, my hunch is you are, because this podcast is called Turning Inward. You're turning towards that internal landscape, right? You're starting, maybe you haven't ran into the desert to say no, but you're going, wait a minute, So I was reading a book on awakenings and how they happen, and it talks about 3 different ways. It happens all of a sudden, usually through a trauma or some significant experience, or it can happen, slowly, just gradually, kind of like that aging. It just happens day by day, drip by drip. Or it can be spurred on It can be accelerated through like what we do within university. We take journeys, regular quarterly journeys on opening our awareness, on softening our heart, on training our mind. So those are the 3 methods that this scholar actually talked about. He studies awakening and awareness and enlightenment. But we all are traveling there. We're just traveling at different speeds. And maybe we're traveling alone or we're traveling with a group. That's the only distinction. But because you are human, you are traveling through some form of transformation, some form of becoming. I just happen to work on that internal landscape, that spiritual dimension, the mystical dimension, where you close your eyes to the outside world and you tune in to what's going on inside you. So bravo to you for being here. Thank you for allowing me on your journey. And if you have any questions about this or want to learn more, you can always reach me at viviancarrasco.com, vivian@vivian.carrasco.com. I think it's my email. But, phone numbers, everything's out there. So I'm going to stop with just a little bit of gratitude. I know that there are listeners around the world. I know that there are hundreds and thousands of folks that download the podcast. And even though that makes me nervous thinking about it, I'm excited that it is a one-to-one conversation. So I just want to open that invitation that if you would like to share your insights, your story, what your transformations were like, would really love to hear it. Okay? Have a great day. Thanks. Or night, or afternoon, whatever it is in your world.